Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Radha Punjabi Hari Radha Punjabi Hari Hari Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Mai Subhadra. Jaya Srinathaji, Jai Balagopal, Jai Srinathaji, Jai Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gaurani, Jai Jaya Gaurani, Jai Jaya Gaurani, Jai Jaya Gaurani, Jai Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Girivarakacharya Astodha Satyashishi Maharaj Divine Grace Founder Viskana Bhai Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam Ki Their Most Merciful Lordship Shri Shrikunja Bihari Ki Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mai Subhadra Ki Shri Nathaji Shri Balagopal Ki Shri Shri Gaunitai Ki Nitai Go Prema. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Lord Spirit of Shri Shri Guru. Shri Gauranga. Today's verse, I put two verses together, text 53 and 54 put together. And they are given a purport. So we'll do the two together, I guess. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Praeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistaki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, Texts 53 and 54. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Brahma Bandhur Na Antavya Brahma Bandhur Na Hantavya Atatayi Padarhana Atatayi Padarhana Mayavo Bhayam Amnatam Mayovo Bhayam Amnatam Paripahi Anushanam Paripahi Anusasanam Guru Pratishrutam Satyam Guru Pratishrutam Satyam Yat Tat Santai Vayata Priyam Yat Tat Sant Vayata Priyam Priyam Cha Imashinasya Priyam Cha Vimasenasya Panchalya Mahyam Eva Cha Panchalya Mahyam Eva Cha Shri Bhagavan Vacha Brahma Bandhur Nahantavya Atatai Vadarana Mayavo Bhayam Amnatam Paripahi Anusasanam Guru Prati Shrutam Satyam Yatat Santa Vayata Priyam Priyam Cha Vimasenasya Panchalya Mahyam Eva Cha Shri Bhagavan Vacha Brahma Bandhur Nahantavya Atatai Vadarhana Mayavo Bhayam Amnatam Paripahi Anusasanam Guru Prati Shrutam Satyam Yatat Sanvayata Priyam Priyam Cha Vimasenasya Panchalya Mayam Neva Cha Shri Bhagavan Vacha Brahma Bandhur Nahantavya Atatai Vadarhana Mayavo Bhayam Amnatam Paripahi Anusasanam Guru Prati Shrutam Satyam Yatat Sanvayata Priyam Priyam cha bhimasenasya panchalyamahameva cha Shri Bhagavan Vacha Brahma Bandhu Nahantavya Atatai Vadarhana Mabhayam Apnatam Paripahi Anusasanam Guru Pratishutam Satyam Yatat Sanvayata Priyam Priyam Cha Bhimasenasya Panchalya Mayameva Cha Shri Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Uvacha said, Brahma Bandhu, the relative of a Brahman. Na, not. Hantavya, to be killed. Etatai, the aggressor. Bada Arhana is due to be killed. Maya, by me. Eva, certainly. Ubayam, both. Amnatam, described according to rulings of the authority. Paripahi, carry out. Anusasanam, rulings. Kuru, abide by. Pratishrutam, as promised by. Satyam, truth. Yat, tat, that which. Sanvyayata, while pacifying. Priyam, dear wife. Priyam, satisfaction. Cha, also. Bhimasenasya, of Shri Bhimasen. Panchalya, of Draupadi. Maya, unto me also. Eva, certainly. Cha, and. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Brahma Bandhu Nahantavya Tatai Vadarhana Mayavo Bhayaman Natam Paripahi Anusasanam Guru Prati Shrutam Satyam Yatat Sanvayata Priyam Priyam Cha Bhimasenasya Panchalya Mayam Evacha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace abide. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, said, a friend of a Brahman is not to be killed, but if he's an aggressor, he must be killed. All these rulings are in the scriptures, and you should act accordingly. You have to fulfill your promise to your wife, and you must also act to the satisfaction of Bhimasen and me. Me, meaning Krishna. Please repeat. The personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna said, a friend of a Brahman is not to be killed. But if he is an aggressor, he must be killed. All these rulings are in the scriptures, and you should act accordingly. You have to fulfill your promise to your wife, and you must also act to the satisfaction of Bhimasen and me. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, said, a friend of a Brahman is not to be killed, but if he is an aggressor, he must be killed. All these rulings are in the scriptures, and you should act accordingly. You have to fulfill your promise to your wife. You must also act to the satisfaction of Bhimashane in me. Purport: by his divine grace, Abhay Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna was perplexed because Ashwatam was to be killed as well as spared, according to different scriptures cited by different persons. As a Brahma Bandhu, or a worthless son of a Brahmin, Ashwatam was not to be killed, but he was at the same time an aggressor also, and according to the rulings of Manu, an aggressor, even though he be a Brahmin. And what to speak of an unworthy son of a Brahmin is to be killed. Dronacharya was certainly a Brahmin in the true sense of the term, but because he stood in the battlefield, he was killed. Jai Shri Radha Jai Jagannath Jai Baladev Maheshwara Jai Shri Gauranga. But although Ashwatam was an aggressor, he stood without any fighting weapons. The ruling is that an aggressor, when he is without weapon or chariot, cannot be killed. All these were certainly perplexities. Besides that, Arjuna had to keep the promise he had made before Draupadi just to pacify her. And he also had to satisfy both Bhishma and Krishna. Both Bhima and Krishna, who advised killing him. This dilemma was present before Arjuna, and the solution was awarded by Krishna, which we will see in the next few verses. But just see the test Krishna puts before Arjuna to make this perplexing decision on what to do. Also revealing to him how that from time to time there are events that take place that one scripture seems to say one thing about it, but then another scripture seems to say another thing that might almost be contradictory. And so here we have that very situation. And for a man of equal mind, it becomes even a perplexing question. Krishna is really, when you look at the Bhagavad Gita, this is on a battlefield, but it's either kill or be killed, basically, on the battlefield. Whereas now, you have this situation after the perpetrator is caught. Now, what the state the battle is in, I'm not sure. The battle seems to be at a standstill at this particular point in time. But although Ashwatam was an aggressor, he stood without any fighting weapons. And so, see how strict the time of one's own word, one having to hold up the truth of his own words now. Krishna is demanding of him. You've sworn an oath to your wife that you would cut his head off. And now you have to please her and the scripture that says he can't be killed. So what a perplexing situation to be put into. And sometimes in life as well, because our society has become so complicated. And Srila Prabhupada, one of Srila Prabhupada's points of living under the protection of ISKCON is that we can live a simple life. Simple life, meaning we don't have to complicate our lives with the things of the world that are being done for the sake of sense gratification. Which, if you look at it analytically, as a devotee who has engaged in this devotional service, I would was meditating, as we do 3 times a day, on this verse in Gayatri Mantra, which is the second to the last verse. We have 7 verses, so the 6th verse. Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopi Jana Vallabhaya Namaha. Krishna is engaging us, allowing us to engage in the very same kinds of activities that the gopis, Gopi Jana Vallabhaya, that the gopis are engaging in. And so we can really know that this is an act of eternal surrender that we engage in when we engage in these devotional acts, which very easily in our minds can be thought of as mundane. But Krishna is not looking at them, these acts, as that. And Krishna is the ultimate, as we see as well in this verse. Krishna is putting this decision up to Arjuna, but then ultimately the decision will be made by Krishna, and so perfectly as well. Death, in effect, by God, in the presence of God, would be a statement of advancement. Krishna kills you, you're going to be better off than you were in whatever life you had previously. So in effect, if he would be rewarded with the results of being slain in battle, I don't know that punishment is looked at in the same way. This was the most heinous crime. That's why even the scriptures are meant to bring us to love of God. And yet as well contained within there has to be the regulations on what happens when people kill one another, which is exactly contrary to the principles of love of God. So if something is not done to stop the act, then it continues. And this is the problem we have right now in government, that people who are using the government position that they have for something other than a service to humanity, that position is created by the government, which is supposed to be representation of the people's enactments of the governing principles of the society that the people are making up. So if the people that are supposed to be representing the society, are not representing the society, but in fact are using their position to further their own well-being instead, the acts that they are engaged in will be looked at as useless. No matter how educated they had to become to hold their position, no matter how high on the level of other human beings their IQ was determined to be, once a heinous act is committed, all that is forgotten. Just imagine now. Everything a person has done through their life, which is beneficial to society as a service, and then they commit a heinous act such as this. What's going to be thought of all those good deeds? Nothing. Nothing at all. Like what's being done out there in the world, and what should never be done in this time, violating young children and using the position of authority. If we don't put ourselves high on some throne, then we can't be knocked off of the throne. So that's where the position of servant can become faultless very easily. Position of a king can become faultless as well. But it is required upon the king to give his subjects good advice. And if he doesn't, then he will suffer a sixth. I'm sure it's a sixth. I have to look that up. That would be something to look up on our search of the Vedas. How much karma does the king get from his subjects?
1/6.
1/6, right? That's what I've been saying. They told me on Sunday feast it was
6%.
6%. Yeah, 6%. That's what it was saying, which is a difference.
Yeah.
Big difference. 1/6 is like 15%.
16. Almost 16.
Yeah. Actually, a little more.
More than 16.
Yeah, than 15%. So, but these are given out by measure of mercy, just as Mother Draupadi can't change her own motherly nature, and the fact that she has lived her whole life being a loving person. So she can't change her nature. All of a sudden now she comes in front of some most horrible person that's just been the cause of her grief. But because she is of such loving mood always, her heart then reveals its own nature, the love of it. We can't kill him, she says. You can't kill the soul anyway. The soul can't be killed anyhow. So there's no such thing. In one sense of the term, the application, the soul does not die. But the soul that is due to punishment is immediately sent to Yamaraj. That's the 5th canto. So, bringing death upon one, we discussed this before, who is going to be sent, obviously, to Yamaraj, will somewhat deter the extreme amount of suffering that he would otherwise be punished for. So, in a sense, killing is merciful under those conditions, but it can never be looked at as mercy if one does not know the end result after this life, being the way souls are punished, because the nature of the soul being eternal, it can't die. So it can be put into circumstances that would go beyond what some bodies, like our bodies here, we can endure a certain amount of pain and then it forces us out of the body. But there are bodies in which it can endure much more pain and never get out of the body until the punishment is finished. Oh, that's what those hells are created specifically for, described in Bhagavatam as well. There are bodies that are exposed to the surface of a planet made practically totally of a hot material, a hot metal, not molten hot, but it's hot due to the fact that the planet's close to the sun. And there's no relief, there's no drinking water, nothing like that. It's just specifically for punishment. But see, when we take into consideration the makeup of the soul, it's the only way, in some cases, that the soul itself proper, as an indestructible force of energy, can be deterred from its way. realize how powerful this force is. If we are amongst normal, civilized human beings, we don't have a grasp on the effects of evil in people's minds who want to destroy. Because normal people don't sit around thinking about these ideas to do harm to other living entities. But those that do don't even realize that even the thoughts, because as it's been proven, thoughts can even kill plants. Just thoughts about the plants. Even while you may be watering the plant, if you have in your mind pulling that plant up by the roots and tearing it apart. This is an experiment that was done by Dr. Bose. I think this was done back in the 50s or so, quite some time ago. Srila Prabhupada uses this many times as an example of how consciousness is there in the plant life. And that consciousness has the ability to sense thought waves, thought patterns. And they interpret when a man has in mind to destroy them as such that they will give themselves up. They will destroy their own life first. They will die themselves. Even they can be put into the same environmental circumstances as other plants, and yet they will die. They will force themselves to die. Or we could say they don't do it to themselves willingly, but the effects of the sound vibration created by just the thoughts of the mind is powerful enough to cause the living force in that plant to want to leave. And these kinds of thoughts are being thought of by you to act towards human beings. And then in Quran, they're making it to have people believe this is the will of God for us to have this mentality. So how many of these thought pulses are going out into the universe, accumulating in the force called the outer covering of the universe, false ego. And there's a cumulative false ego that we are all feeling the effects of. Preachers too. Preachers are preaching to stop the effects of false ego. But preachers can only preach against the effects of false ego if they themselves are free from the control. False ego means doing everything for ourselves. I mean my desires, to satisfy the senses of my body. Tasting, hearing, seeing, smelling, all these things. And then when we simply do it for the other cause, then that activity, doing it for the pleasure of the one from whom all things come, transforms into that energy that Krishna has allowed the gopis to take part in. So we as ordinary, there's no such thing as an ordinary devotee. You're specially picked by Krishna himself to do the things because he's found it pleasing to him to invite you into his family. But not because you weren't a part of his family, but to realize that you have been since time immemorial. That's what we have. Self-realizations means realizing what we are because we don't know what we are. That's what the meaning of self-realization is. So people think they are postman, baker, chandelier maker. And all that is valid, but to know the position as servant to the supermost human being, then that's a position Krishna is offering every single form of human life that's on the planet right now. It's available and open to anyone who wants to engage in transcendental loving service to the Supreme Personality of God. And he says so in Bhagavad Gita. If you offer me with loving devotion a little fruit, water, a leaf, I'll accept it. It's like such a simple request. Simple life, simple offerings. We don't have to be rich and wealthy to be able to offer in a nice plate to Krishna something that he's just saying, show me your love. I want to see your love. And that's basically the way our love becomes perfected. So every day showing our love to Krishna, then we show it a little better the next day, a little better the next day. One day, we'll become. Krishna won't allow us to stay here any longer. We'll be so dear to him, he's going to pull us out. Used to be a joke, he'd pull us out by our sikas, or Chaitanya's going to pull us out by our sika. But isn't it wonderful to know and have these thoughts going through our mind rather than the disturbances in the material world and the constant suffering? People around, April 15th is the deadline for paying your taxes. Those that have their own businesses, even small businesses, a little store that sells candy and this kind of thing, they have to tell the government, they have to show them all the receipts, they have to calculate how much they've made. And if they can't do it themselves, then they make the laws regarding whether you can discount it from your taxes. If it was business expense, you can take it off because it had to be done for so many things regarding this. Then you have to hire a professional to be able to figure your taxes out for you. Now they have free submission, but the government makes everything complicated. Krishna consciousness trying to simplify life for us, so that the only thing God expects of us is that which will provide us with happiness, which reveals that Krishna himself wants us to be happy. And the nature of this chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, is that activity which can most powerfully reveal to us the reality of that happiness that we're made of, that the soul is made of. And it's not something that we have somehow, by our efforts, come to the point of being, but we've always been that. Which is why we can keep being reminded, like Srila Prabhupada, I'm not coming to tell you something you don't know. Because in the realized state, see, we come to know what we are. Then that knowledge that we are made of, it's us. The substance of knowledge is what we are. And with Krishna revealing to us the fact that he's sharing this body with us, then that consciousness is what he wants to change and transform into his way of thinking, his way of seeing everything. And the easiest way to do that, the simplified way of doing that, is surrendering to the principles Srila Prabhupada set down as that which a devotee functions as a devotee in the institution of ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. People do see, especially coming from India, because the practice of having an altar in your own home is very common in India, very commonplace, which people don't normally, in American society, quote-unquote Christian society, They don't think in their home as having a sacred place. They wait till they go to church on Sunday to experience the sacred place. And then only the priest is allowed into the sacred place. Right? And they transform. See, here that principle of prasadam is there because they have a ceremony celebrating the sacrifice that the person they call Christ gave his life in place of, as the tradition was within Judaism, the sacrifice of animals. But they're not realizing when they are calling this nation a Judeo-Christian nation, they're denying the fact that the Judeo practitioners rejected their guru, Christ. They rejected him and sent him to Pontius Pilate to be judged to death, kill him. That's what they wanted to be done to him. By the statement he made, which we are also making, Satchidananda, the way, the truth, and the life. When a devotee realizes what the meaning of this is what we are saying is Satchidananda. We are made of eternal truth. The substance and the nature of that is eternal, the truth that we're made of. And knowing that gives the practitioner who knows that the experience of absolute bliss. We are made of absolute truth. We are made of the breath of God. We can't get out of the family of God. Unless we go to the hellish planets, and there are, which I've described, there are hellish planets that are even more opulent than the heavenly planets here in this universe. I don't know if they can be compared, can't be compared to Vaikuntha. Then went to speak of Krishna Loka. Because the substances that are there are made of the same substance the soul is made of. But until we actually get there, it's quite likely we will not really know the substance of Satchidananda completely. But everything there is made of that substance. Can you imagine? Just as here, everything is made of the same substance as the physical body is made of, but the physical body has no means of being able to interact with the material energy, actually. It's separate from, independent, aloof from. But in the spiritual world, Satchidananda is of a completely different nature, and it is the makeup of love itself. The same substance that we are made of is what Srimati Radharani and Krishna are made of. And Lord Chaitanya in that combined form. So, the servitude, the act of submission that makes Srimati Radharani so attractive to Krishna, because she's getting a pleasure out of serving him that he can't get because he's not serving himself. And the only way he can know that is to be in the same body with her, which is why he appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to be able to do just that. And then they together. So you would say, in effect, this form that Krishna is revealing to us as most recently manifested here, the most powerful form of love of God, basically there is anywhere. Because we could say, well, Krishna is all powerful, yeah. But he reveals the power of his love through an individual form itself. Radharani. Whereas Lord Chaitanya is one and the same of the combination of both of them in the same body. So, in effect, see, we look back to think, well, those souls that had taken birth with Krishna 5,000 years ago were much closer to Krishna's Leela and involved with, but see how close we are to Lord Chaitanya, who is actually even more powerfully revealing his true nature through this mercy that we don't exactly see individually in Krishna or Radha, because she lacks things that Krishna has, and Krishna lacks things that she has, the Lord Chaitanya. But I don't see Lord Chaitanya playing the flute, so he restrains some of his. And just like, see, that may very well be due the same way Sukadeva Goswami knew and restrained himself from even saying Srimati Radharani. Otherwise, he would have gone into trance, losing it. Because love is so powerful a force, and when you come to the point of knowing what effect even speaking someone's name will have on you, and you know you have to continue speaking, you have to restrain. You have to restrain. And see, this restraint as well is something that comes acquired with preaching. You restrain yourself within the circles of certain belief circles. Atheists, you speak about Krishna in a certain way, in a different way than you would to a Christian, in a different way than you would to a Buddhist. But the same Krishna, we don't change Krishna, but just to reveal to them where they are. This is what the masters that attained the height of the Parampara revealed to us that they were capable of doing, is coming down to where the general populace are and bringing love of God to them, coming down to their level, so to speak. It's like in the temple we live in a certain level of consciousness, protected and sheltered. But to exposers like Bhaktivinoda holding the position of a magistrate judge, right? And every day he's like maybe 10, 15, 20 people. He's having to give judgment, serious judgment, that's going to make a good part of their life or their future. And he's got to carry that karma as a judge. And then as a devotee, though, now, with his heart of hearts. And when you read the songs that were coming out of his heart, that glorification is She Guru Vandana that we sing also. The realizations we come to understand give so much meaning to the process then. Because we can know by the love of someone else's heart that the process they're engaged in is what gave them that kind of love. And so when that love is exhibited like that, revealed in Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then what to speak in his son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, the age of 4 years old, tried to eat a mango and then spoke an oath and would never eat mangoes again because he had eaten it before it was offered. These are elevated souls that we have in our parampara who have gained with Krishna the reputation of being faithful to his teaching. So we have the greatest fortune of having their association, their darshan, by the songs that they've written, by the principles put into the repetition of Srila Prabhupada's words that they gave to him for us to have and cherish as our life, as that substance that makes us what we are. The truth, as long as we stay on the path of truth, is what we are made of. And it's the substance for us to realize the taste of truth. Because as much as punishment has a bad taste, reward of spirituality and realization of the self has a good taste. The most wonderful taste for us to be able to know the substance of the soul. That's what it can taste itself. The substance of the soul, Sachidananda. And the process is given to that. This chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. The more I chant, the more I know I need to chant. Because I don't chant enough. I should chant more than I do. Especially on Ekadasi, it is advised that we can use so much to the extent that it said that we shouldn't cut our nails, shouldn't cut our hair, shouldn't do any of these bodily activities on Ekadasi, because the whole time is meant to be spent in spiritual realization on Ekadasi. By Krishna's mercy, we know what that activity is. Any comments, any questions, any realizations anyone like to share? Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Well, we don't see Monday.